My son and daughter-in-law just won 87 million, and now I'm locked out of my own house. The key won't turn, the porch light dies, and neighbors cheer while she says, "It's time, Walt." I grip the suitcase they packed for me. The first thing I noticed wasn't the crowd on my lawn, but the phone buzz in my shirt pocket. A neighbor had tagged me in a Facebook post. Local couple wins $35 million state lottery. The photo was my own porch, full of balloons I hadn't bought. By the time I stepped outside, strangers were already clapping. Ethan kept his hands in his pockets, and Brianna turned sideways to the cameras like she'd practiced the angle. The air smelled of barbecue from 2 houses over, yet no one looked my way. "Smile, Dad," Brianna called. "Our porch is famous tonight." I studied the porch light above her. It flickered against the dusk like it wasn't sure who it belonged to. Neighbors waved. One man asked Brianna how it felt to be millionaires. She laughed. "It's been hard supporting Dad all these years. But we're blessed." The words hit like cold water. I cleared my throat. "Supporting?" Ethan shuffled, eyes on his shoes. "Let it go, Dad. Folks are happy for us." I wanted to correct him. My house, my bills, my years. Instead, I just said, "Funny, feels like it isn't mine." Someone chuckled like it was a joke. More phones rose in the air. Heart pulse. In my own yard, I was invisible. The family tension exchange carried on. Thin smiles stretched for the crowd. Brianna, "It's our porch, Dad." Me, "Our? I've been paying for our light bulbs for 2 decades. Ethan, "Not now. Please." Brianna, "Exactly. Not now." I turned away before they posed for another picture. The timestamp on my phone screen glowed 7:42 p.m. under the headline. Right above it, my pastor's name blinked among the first to hit the like button. And just like that, the porch felt colder. I stayed up after the yard emptied, kitchen light humming over stacks of boxes I hadn't opened in years. Each carton held layers of my life: insurance slips, utility bills, grocery receipts, all alphabetized by habit more than foresight. My wife used to tease me, "Keep every slip, Walt. Someday you'll need them." Tonight the stacks looked less like clutter and more like a ledger of truth. I pulled one labeled 2008 and laid it flat. My hands shook, not from age, but from remembering the night I gave Ethan my spare keys. Flashback. He was 30 then, shoulders hunched with debt. Brianna smiled too brightly when I said, "Stay as long as you need." I dropped the keys in his palm. "Temporary," I added. She tucked them into her purse, like they'd been hers all along. Back in the kitchen, I exhaled. "Temporary's a long word, son." The porch light flickered through the window, its glow faint but stubborn. I shuffled bills into piles. Utilities, mortgage, insurance. 22 years of proof that temporary meant me footing everything. Heart pulse. Shame hardened into resolve as I stacked the slips higher than my own pride. I muttered at the empty room. 2 decades temporary, huh? The silence answered better than my son ever had. I sealed the 2008 ledger with a rubber band and set it apart. Something about that year, it would matter. The porch light sputtered once, then steadied. For a moment, I thought it was trying to tell me I still had a say. The fellowship patio smelled of hot dogs and charcoal, kids running circles around folding chairs, balloons tied to the railing. Plastic spoons clinked against paper bowls of potato salad. I stood at the edge with a stack of cups and a jug of sweet tea, waiting for the right pause. The sun pressed down on my neck, the heat of a Florida noon making sweat slide under my collar. When the pastor finished his prayer, I raised my cup. "To faith and family," I said. My voice cracked, but I kept it steady. Simple words. I didn't want more. Ethan gave a small nod, eyes darting around, but Brianna was already sliding toward the mic stand, phone lifted high. She looked like she was stepping onto a stage she'd been rehearsing for her whole life. "Friends," she began, smiling directly into the camera lens. "We've been blessed. For 22 years we opened our roof to Dad out of pity. He's lived under our roof." The words slammed into me louder than the church bell in the steeple. My sweet tea caught in my throat. I lowered the cup before I dropped it. Heart pulse. Humiliation burns sharper than sugar. I looked around for a friendly face. Some neighbors smiled politely at me, then turned their eyes away. Others laughed out loud. Then the projector screen flickered. A clip filled the white sheet taped against the wall. Me, years ago, handing Ethan the keys. My voice cropped and twisted. "You can stay as long as you need." The line that followed, "Here are the keys to the place I bought," was gone. Laughter spread like spilled soda. Phones came up, screens glinting in the sun. The timestamp glowed at the corner. Uploaded 12:31 p.m. Fresh, deliberate. I tried to speak over the noise. "That was my house." Brianna cut me off with a hand wave. "No one needs receipts at a cookout, Dad." Ethan stepped in, murmuring like a referee. "Not now, please. Let's not make a scene." Neighbors chimed in. "Don't ruin their moment, Walt. She's just being playful, you know. Come on, smile for the picture." The family tension exchange sharpened. Me, "Our roof? I've paid for every shingle." Brianna, "We kept you out of pity. That's the truth." Ethan, "Dad, stop." Me, "I brought the roof. You brought the selfie stick." Some gasped, some laughed harder. Kids at the edge of the crowd repeated the line like it was a joke. I scanned the patio, desperate for anyone to back me. And then I saw him, my pastor, arms folded, head tilted in quiet agreement with the crowd. The same man whose name had flashed on my phone last night among the first to like Brianna's post. That nod, soft, approving, public, landed harder than Brianna's smile. It was the kind of nod that told the whole church whose side to take. I shut the door on the fellowship laughter and let the quiet garage take me in. Concrete smell, a wobble-legged table, boxes up to my ribs. The porch light showed through the dusty window like a steady coin, bright enough to work by. I pulled the first carton close. Insurance slips, water bills, gas, groceries, stacks that had my handwriting on the corners, and grocery store ink that hadn't faded yet. I lined them by year. I didn't trust memory anymore. Not mine, not anyone else's. Peter had a better memory than people. Montage, quick and neat. Envelopes opened, dates lined, totals circled. A man and his pen making order out of noise. That was the whole orchestra, 3 measures long, and it was enough. Footsteps scraped in the hall. Ethan paused in the doorway, still in his church shirt, sleeves wrinkled where he'd rolled them wrong. He didn't come in. "Don't start something, Dad," he said softly. "It was just a party." I didn't look up. "It's been her night for 22 years. He shifted his weight. "She just wanted folks to feel good." "Good costs," I said. "Look at it." I tapped the stacks, then stopped myself. "Not tonight. No more show and tell for a crowd that didn't want to see." He stared at his shoes. "Maybe try to be gracious?" "Gracious is easy when the bills don't have your name on them." He flinched. "You're making it ugly." It was ugly the minute a lie got a microphone. I finally met his eyes. "Close the door, son." "I'm working." He drew in a breath like he was going to argue, then let it out. The door eased shut with that rubbery garage seal hiss that always sounded like surrender. Heart pulse. My house throbbed with music, but I was alone in it. I kept sorting. The hum of the porch light leaked through the window like a held note. It felt steady, steadier than me. I used to keep numbers for happier reasons. My wife's birthday, our anniversary date, the score from a Navy game I can still hear on an old radio. I played those numbers on Tuesdays out of ritual. Habit is a kind of prayer, even when it looks like superstition. I wrote them in a margin, then crossed the note out. Not evidence, not yet. I flipped the 2008 ledger open, dated it, then wrapped a rubber band around it and slid it aside. That year had a kind of weight I could feel in my wrist. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was the year I stopped being dad and became furniture. Party noise swelled. Someone whooped. A bass line thudded through the wall. I took a breath and made myself smaller, quieter, slower. Papers square, pen capped, labels straight. Every small order was a piece of myself I wasn't willing to hand over. The garage smelled like dust and machine oil. Good smells, true ones. My old socket set blinked at me from the pegboard like metal teeth. I'd spent a lifetime turning bolts until stubborn things yielded. People were different, or maybe they weren't. The door cracked again. Ethan reappeared, a silhouette. Brianna says you're sulking. You came back to deliver that or to listen? He rubbed the back of his neck. Just don't bring this to the clubhouse tomorrow. Let folks be happy. Truth doesn't bruise that easy, I said. If happiness needs me quiet, it's not the kind I was taught. He frowned, then retreated a step. Please don't make me pick a side. You already did, I said, gentler than I felt. Close the door, son. He did. The latch clicked. The porch light's glow stayed steady on the concrete, a square of gold I could work inside like a taped-off floor. I stacked the last pile, squared the corners with the heel of my hand, and sat back. I didn't have to win tonight. I just had to be ready. My phone buzzed on the table, face down. A message banner rolled across the glass. Deacon Paul, would you like to share your gratitude at the HOA clubhouse? The bass from outside hit a beat. The phone buzzed again, as if the invitation needed underlining. I watched the screen without touching it, the words sitting there like a hinge waiting for a turn. Air conditioning blasted the HOA clubhouse so hard the paper streamers trembled. The folding tables wore plastic tablecloths the color of toothpaste, and every hand seemed to hold a red cup. I walked to the far end by the coffee urn and set my stack of ledgers down like they were the only solid thing in the room. Friends, I said, not loud, just enough to carry. I'd like to show you something. I opened one ledger and slid a utility bill to the top. I turned it outward, face up so even the back row could see the block letters stamped near the fold. Due, August 15th. 1Q, simple as the truth. Brianna's smile stiffened. Ethan took a half step between me and the room. Let's not spoil the day, he said, palms out. It's church folks here. I'm not spoiling anything, I answered. I'm adding up what it took to keep this place running for 22 years. The HOA president's walkie-talkie crackled. He leaned toward the AV volunteer at the mic and, not quietly enough, said, "Keep the mic for announcements only." The mic cable answered with a plastic click that felt like a lock turning. He stepped to the lectern, tapped the head once, and smiled at the room. "We'll keep it light tonight." The words drifted across the tables like confetti, but his eyes flicked at me. I rested my fingertips on the bill. Water, power, insurance, groceries, the things that don't clap when you pay them. Brianna dabbed at a dry eye. "Dad," she said, voice sugar soft for the phones. "Not now. People came to celebrate good news. Gracious is easy when the bills don't have your name," I said. Pastor stepped in, gentle. "Brother Walt, perhaps another time." Another time was the last 22 years, I said, and turned a second ledger so the stack, one face-up bill, sat square in the center. I kept the rest closed. I knew better than to feed people more paper than they were willing to hold. Family tension tightened in public. Ethan, "Dad, please." "Don't make a scene." Me. The scene was made when the truth got edited. Brianna, "This is mean." Me. "This is math." A neighbor squeezed past, pressing a paper plate into my hand. "Not now," she whispered, the plate squeaking as it bent. Social freeze-out in a single sound. I lifted the visible bill with 2 fingers. "You see the date? It's not old. I've been paying the light that lets you take these pictures." A few phones lowered, most didn't. The HOA president cleared his throat and looked at Pastor. "Civility," he said, like it was a prayer. Pastor nodded. "Tonight is for joy." "The receipts spoke," I said, my voice tightening, but no one wanted to listen. Heart pulse. The paper felt heavier than it should, like it had learned to carry my silence for me. Brianna reached for the ledgers as if to straighten them. Her fingers skimmed the cover and then retreated, performance delicate. "We'll go through all that later, Dad." At home. To the crowd. "He gets agitated." A quiet laugh rolled through the room. Ethan took the opening and guided the stack back toward me by a fraction of an inch, as if distance itself were politeness. I gathered the ledgers not to hide them, but because I could see the lock on the mic and the smile on the man holding the key. The AV volunteer killed the projector, and the white sheet became just a sheet again. The chant starting in one corner. "Speech! died when the HOA president lifted his palm. He looked right past me and said into the mic, "Let's give it up for our winners." Applause washed over the ledgers like rain over a roof I'd paid for. I stepped back until my shoulders met the clubhouse doorframe. Through the glass, I could see my own porch light across the street, a faint square of yellow behind a shrub, too far to warm me but bright enough to remind me it existed. Brianna angled her phone. "Smile," she sang, catching me in the doorway, ledger edges visible at my waist. My mouth didn't cooperate. She snapped anyway. Ethan leaned in just long enough to murmur, "We'll talk at home." "We could have," I said, "for 22 years. He gave up the smallest shrug I've ever seen and returned to the clapping circle. The HOA president raised the mic again. "Let's keep it light," he repeated, the cable giving one more neat little click. The sound followed me as I turned sideways to slip out. My phone buzzed before I reached the steps outside. A new post swam up on the screen, Brianna's handle tagged with a confetti emoji. The photo was me, backlit by the exit sign, mouth a straight line, ledgers in the crook of my arm. The caption underneath, "Grumpy Dad." I stood in the wash of the doorway like a man in a snapshot who hadn't yet figured out he was the joke. Inside, the applause kept going. Outside, my porch light was steady and far. The morning after the clubhouse, my porch smelled of wet grass and fryer oil drifting from someone else's breakfast. The HOA email glowed on my phone. "Mr. Green, concerns have been raised about agitation and declining stability after last night's event. Please limit disturbances. Heart pulse. They filed my dignity as a nuisance complaint." I lowered the phone just as the wind chime clicked against the porch rail. My house was steady. The words on the screen were not. The phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I thumbed it open and put it on speaker. "Mr. Green, HOA assistant here. Just a reminder, any concerns should go through our online form." "I showed receipts," I said. "Yes, sir, but the board prefers calm. Healing. This isn't the forum." "It's never the forum when the truth is heavy," I said. Silence, then a cough. "We'll note your comments. Please submit them in writing." A beep cut me off as the line ended. The call still hummed in my ear when Brianna stepped onto the porch, phone in hand. She scrolled with a frown drawn just deep enough for sympathy. "Dad, I think people just want you safe. That's all." "Safe for you means silent for me." Ethan hovered behind her. "It was a party, Dad. You could have let it go. Rest is easy when you're erased," I said. She tapped her screen, lips tight. "We're trying to keep peace." "Peace doesn't come from policy," I said, holding up the phone. "It comes from telling the truth." Family tensions spilled across the boards like sunlight. "Brianna, you don't need to fight everyone." "Me, I'm not fighting. I'm standing." "Ethan, we're worried about you." "Me, then stop feeding them reasons to worry." Neighbors across the street walked by. They glanced up, then down again. I saw one tilt her phone toward me, fingers moving fast. The porch light, still lit from the sensor's confusion, dimmed as the morning glare swallowed it. I watched it fade, the last square of yellow folding into daylight. "They'll switch me off next," I muttered. The VFW hall smelled like floor wax and old cigars. Neon beer signs hummed. Morrison slid into the booth across from me, suit jacket off, sleeves rolled. He set his phone on the table like a card he'd been waiting to play. "Ready?" he asked. "As I'll ever be." He opened the bank app and turned the screen. One line sat there, clean as a keel. Circle K, $2, Tuesday 9:18 p.m. He didn't say anything. He didn't have to. I leaned closer until my face reflected on the glass between the digits. The timestamp held steady, the way a true thing does when you stare at it. Circle K, Tuesday, 9:18. Morrison said at last. "That's your purchase. That app's tied to your card. If they argue you loaned it, we have your pattern of Tuesday plays. We have your numbers," I nodded. "I've played them since my wife passed." He tapped a small info icon at the edge of the screen, but didn't expand it. "And, verbally, we'll note the 180-day claim window. Don't need to flash another cue now." Good, I said. One cue is loud enough. He smiled. You always this disciplined? Shipyard. You learn not to flood the deck. Ray from the VFW drifted by with a rag and a grin. Counselor giving you the good news, Walt? Better than good, Morrison said. It's evidence. This room loves evidence, Ray said, and thumped the table once like a gavel before moving on. My phone buzzed. Ethan. I almost let it die in my pocket, then answered. Dad, he said, voice low like he was sneaking the call. Can we be done with this? It's my ticket, Ethan. It's our family. Don't turn this into a trial. It became one when you and Brianna put me on the stand, I said. He exhaled. You'll ruin what should be happy. I didn't edit the truth, I said, and ended the call. Morrison watched me pocket the phone. He'll come around when we lay it out. Or when the crowd does, I said. He looked back at the screen. We'll make sure the crowd can't unsee it. Heart pulse. Proof is mine, but timing will decide the blow. I glanced at the neon clock over the pool table, not as a document, just a reminder of a day already moving. We need the cashier, I said. Morrison nodded. Let's walk down there. We found the Circle K smelling like coffee and mop water. The clerk, a young woman with a high bun and sharp eyes, looked up at my navy ball cap. You were in here Tuesday night, she said before we even asked. You always wear that cap. 9-something. You bought a Powerball with cashback gum. She laughed at herself. Don't ask me how I remember gum, but I do. Morrison flashed a discreet smile. Would you be willing to say that on paper if asked? No pressure now. Sure, she said. You were polite. You always are. People aren't as forgettable as they think. Outside, the heat bounced off the pavement in little waves. Morrison shaded his eyes. 2 pillars, the transaction record and a human witness. That's hard to knock down. It's Florida, I said. We get hurricanes. Then we bolt everything. Back at the VFW booth, he angled the phone screen again. The line hadn't moved. Tuesday, 9:18 p.m. The numbers felt like the porch light in my mind. Steady, unblinking, mine. Next question, Morrison said. When do you show this? Not yet, I said. Not until they've built the biggest stage they can. I could feel the beat of Friday in my chest, a drumline I hadn't agreed to but could use. Smart, he said. The bigger the audience, the cleaner the reversal. He locked the phone and looked me over. All right, Walt. We'll keep the originals clean. Make one certified print for the day of. No clutter between now and then. You say when. I'll say when, I told him. 3 days. He raised a brow. 3? 3 to let them talk. 3 to line up what matters. 3 to make sure the porch light doesn't flicker when I flip the switch. Morrison stood, slid the phone back into his pocket like a tool put away after use. Call me if anything moves. Ray brushed past one more time. You look lighter, Walt. I'm not lighter, I said. I'm loaded. He laughed, not unkindly. Save some for Sunday. Outside, crossing the lot, I dialed up the memory of my porch light, the way it holds steady when the sensor finally understands it's night. That's what the timestamp felt like now. Not a weapon exactly, a switch, waiting for the right part of the service. 3 days. I said it out loud, testing the weight. 3 days, I repeated, and didn't look at my phone when it buzzed again. The moving truck backed into my driveway like it owned the place. The beep-beep slicing through the humid afternoon. Men in polos hauled in boxes bigger than the couch I'd bought 30 years ago. A BMW sat at the curb, chrome wheels catching the sun like polished teeth. I stayed on the sidewalk. My porch, looked like a stage set for someone else's life. Brianna spotted me. She tucked her sunglasses higher on her head, phone raised. Don't lurk, Dad. You'll scare the neighbors. Heart pulse. My house sparkled with cars I never drove. Family tension flared on the curb. Me. Scared folks usually wave when I pass. Brianna. They're waving at progress. Try it sometime. Ethan. Quiet at her side. Let it be, Dad. The movers laughed at something Brianna said about upgrading. Cardboard tape ripped like applause. I shifted my weight, not leaving, not approaching. just holding ground. "Mr. Green," a voice called. Mrs. Delgado crossed the street, a thin bundle of envelopes in her hand. Mailman mixed us up again. She handed me 2 gas bills and a coupon flyer. Her eyes lingered on the truck, then on me. "You've been mowing my yard for years," she said quietly, "and I've got the doorbell cam to prove it." 20 years worth of groceries, toolboxes, ladder trips. If you need me to swear, I will. I blinked, the words heavier than the envelopes. "That might matter," I said. "It will," she answered. "You just tell me when." A mover shouted for clearance, snapping a tape measure against the doorframe. Brianna clapped, phone still high, catching the whole scene like it was a parade. Mrs. Delgado touched my elbow, gentle. "Don't let them write you out. You were here first." She crossed back to her house. I watched her stoop for her porch package, and for the first time in days, I didn't feel entirely alone. The BMW door slammed, bass rumbling as Brianna tested the radio. I looked past the car, over the hedge, to where my porch light flickered faintly in the glass. Too far, too dim, but still burning. The VFW hall hummed with neon and old songs bleeding out of a backroom radio. I picked the table under the wall fan and set out a short stack of forms, a blue pen, and a square of felt for the notary's stamp. The paper smelled like toner and promise. Ray arrived first, cap tucked under his arm. "Evening, Walt. Evening." He read the first paragraph out loud, slow and careful, like a man assembling a rifle. "I, Raymond Collins, have personally observed over a period of..." He glanced up. "We doing this right?" "We're doing it clean," I said. He signed. The pen line looked steady in the flicker of the beer signs. A notary from the post down the road, Jean, sat beside him and pressed the seal. It rose off the page in a clean circle. One seal. Enough. A man at the bar muttered, "Let the kids enjoy it." But Ray only said, "Let the truth enjoy daylight," and slid the page to me. The line of his signature felt like a bridge. Heart pulse. For the first time in weeks, someone signed beside my name. The next vet, Darnell, leaned over the table. "I seen you mow, haul, paint. Never took a dime." "Write what you saw," I said. "No poetry, just the work." He grinned. "Ain't my style anyway." He signed. The notary pressed the seal. Thunk, and the circle rose again. My phone buzzed across the table. "Ethan." I thumbed it open. "Dad, what are you doing?" "Getting witness statements." "You're making this legal." "It got legal when a lie cost me my name." He sighed. "Don't ask me to sign." "I didn't," I said. "I asked you to stop lying by silence." "I'm not lying." "Then speak," I said, and hung up. Darnell raised an eyebrow. "That's your boy?" "That's him," I said. "Families are loud," he said. "Stamps are louder." He nodded at Jean. Mrs. Delgado slipped in with a grocery tote. "I can't stay long," she said, "but you can put my name on your list." Doorbell cam from the last few years. I can attest to what I've seen. Groceries, lawn, repairs. Me, my son, and the lady across from us can all say it. "Thank you," I said. "We'll reference the clips without showing them." She touched my wrist. "You held this street together, Mr. Green." Then she was gone with the bell on the door giving a soft, apologetic ring. I signed the witness list line and steadied the stack with my hand. The wall fan ticked. The neon buzzed. The room smelled like wax and floor cleaner and the memory of old cigars. A neighbor couple took seats next. "We saw you deliver Costco runs," the wife said, "twice a month, for years." "That's what you write," I said. "When? How often?" Enough to jog a stranger's mind. She wrote. He signed. Jean pressed the notary seal. Thunk. The raised ring caught the light. From the corner, someone scoffed. "Why drag the church into this?" Ray shot back, calm. "Because they already dragged the church into this." And the scoffer looked away. My phone again. "Ethan." This time a text bubble filling. "Please stop. You're embarrassing us." I typed back. "Truth is only embarrassing to liars." I deleted the last word, let the line cool, and sent instead. "Paper will steady your hands." No reply. "Last page before my break," Jean said, rolling her wrist. I slid a fresh affidavit forward. This one is for Mrs. Delgado's statement. We'll attach her formal piece tomorrow. Ray leaned in. Write the part about the porch light. I blinked. What? You said you kept that house lit. Say it. It's simple. I wasn't sure why that landed, but it did. I added a line to the general statement. Affiant has observed Mr. Green routinely paying utilities and maintaining exterior lighting, among other household expenses. Words can be plain and still carry a life. As I signed my name confirming receipt of the witness statements, I pictured the porch light, my porch light, steady even when the sensor hesitated. That steadiness was what the stack felt like now. Weight with purpose. Jean pressed the notary seal one more time. Thunk. The circle rose. Family tension edged back in through the door with a breeze. Ethan, calling. Dad, you're going to turn everyone against us. Me. I'm turning the lights on. Ethan. It's mean. Me. It's math. He cut the line. The dial tone felt cleaner than the conversation. Ray gathered the signed pages into a neat block and squared the corners with his palm. You want me to walk these to your truck? Please, I said. They're heavier than they look. They usually are. He slid them toward the edge, then paused. You sure you want a crowd when you show this? I'm sure they wanted one when they lied, I said. He nodded, satisfied, and lifted the stack. I pinned a notice on the corkboard with an unused thumbtack, just a little square card. HOA, concerns to be addressed Friday, and stepped back. I didn't need it to be a document. I needed it to be visible. As I set the last signed page on the pile, my phone buzzed one more time. HOA, concerns to be addressed Friday. The words filled the screen like a drumbeat. I held the stack with one hand and the phone with the other, and for the first time in days I felt something like balance. The house felt too quiet when I shut the garage door. I carried the affidavits inside and laid them on the coffee table. Pages like bricks, each one stamped with a seal that said, "You're not alone." Ethan sat on the couch, phone balanced on his knee. Brianna stood near the window, scrolling. She didn't look up until I tapped the table. Neighbors, veterans, 22 years of groceries, mowing, bills, all signed. She slid her phone into her pocket. Dad, it's late. It's truth, I said. I tapped my Ring app, thumb shaking more from anger than age. The video filled the TV screen. Porch light faint in the corner. Timestamp crisp. Tuesday, 9:22 p.m. Brianna at my mailbox, lifting a white envelope, slipping it into her bag. The porch light flickered once, like it was wincing. They stole not just a slip of paper, I said, voice catching, but the ground I stood on. Heart pulse. Ethan leaned forward, elbows on knees. Dad, don't. Don't what? Don't show them what they already did? Brianna stepped closer to the screen. You make it sound like a crime. It was family money, family numbers. We've been pooling for years. Pooling? I said. That's not a pool. That's my paycheck, my bills, my habit on Tuesdays. She raised her chin. We were all part of it. 22 years in this house, Dad. We earned our share. The phone on Ethan's lap lit up. He answered and turned it toward her. A man's face filled the screen, shirt, tie, bookshelf behind him. Mr. Green, the lawyer said, voice smooth as wax. I've been asked to clarify. When family cohabitates, expenses and funds are considered pooled. The lottery ticket, therefore, is a family asset. The $35 million belongs to the family unit. Family tension sharpened. Me, if theft is family, then family needs a dictionary. Brianna, we took care of you. This is ours together. Ethan, Dad, please. Me. You stood by while she picked my mailbox clean. The lawyer's voice carried on. Courts consider equitable distribution. Shared housing, shared assets. You've enjoyed benefits. Benefits, I barked. Paying the mortgage, fixing the roof, keeping the lights on. Ethan's face pinched. Dad, you were given a home, I said. You didn't give one. Brianna shook her head, calm for the camera. You can't fight this narrative. Community sees it. Law sees it. We're not enemies. We're family. Family doesn't need a lawyer at midnight, I said. The man on the screen smiled, unbothered. This is a simple framing, Mr. Green. No need for hostility. The $35 million belongs to the family unit. The words stuck in the air, formal, final, like a judge's gavel. I closed my fist around my own phone until my knuckles hurt. The affidavit sat beside me, paperweight without volume. The timestamp glowed on the ring clip. Tuesday, 9:22 p.m. But even that proof looked small in the face of a polished voice through a screen. Brianna leaned against Ethan, phone angled discreetly as if catching my reaction. I stared at the lawyer's face until the screen dimmed, then reached for the remote. The clip froze on Brianna's hand in my mailbox, porch light flickering in the corner. That, I said, pointing, is theft. Wrap it in family all you want, but I'll show it in daylight. No one answered. The silence felt scripted. The affidavits stayed on the table, heavy as anchors, while the lawyer's words kept echoing. The $35 million belongs to the family unit. The garage smelled of oil and paper dust, the kind of smell that made me feel at home. The workbench was scarred from decades of socket wrenches and sanding blocks, but tonight it was a stage. I pulled the banker's box up and opened it. Inside, the bank statement print, the affidavit sealed with raised circles, the thumb drive with the ring clip. Nothing new, nothing fancy, just lined up like tools before a shift. I laid them out one by one. Originals in plastic sleeves, duplicates stacked neat. Morrison had told me, keep the chain clean, one certified print for the show. No more, no less. He'd said clutter breeds doubt. So I treated each page like a wrench I'd wipe down at the end of a long day. Order was armor. The fan buzzed overhead, blades tired but steady. I took a sticky note, uncapped the marker, and wrote, 180 days in block letters. I stuck it dead center on the monitor. Not because I'd forget, but because the law looks firmer when it's in your own handwriting. Heart pulse. 3 days isn't long, but long enough to weld truth. The phone buzzed. Ethan. I stared at it while the fan droned. I thought about ignoring it, picked up anyway. Dad, he said, voice tight, don't drag this out. I'm not dragging, I answered, circling a date on the wall calendar with the marker. Ink squealed as I pressed harder. I'm measuring. You'll embarrass us. You embarrassed yourselves. I'm setting the record. A pause, breath sharp in the receiver. Brianna's saying you're unstable. People are reading it. I pressed harder on the marker, the circle growing thick around Friday, 7 p.m. Unstable is letting lies balance you. Dad, I've heard enough, I said, and hung up. The silence after a call is different from regular silence. It carries the weight of something unsaid, still humming in your ear. Family tension sat in the stale garage air like exhaust. I stacked the affidavits again, squared the corners with my palm. The raised seals caught the fan's weak light. One clean circle after another, proof pressed into paper. My fingers traced the edge of the bank statement sleeve. Tuesday, 9:18 p.m., clear as day. I didn't need to reread it. I needed to remember how steady it looked, how unshakable it felt. On the pegboard, my old socket set gleamed faintly. I thought about the years of tightening bolts until stubborn steel yielded. People were harder, but not impossible. You just had to bring the right torque at the right time. The porch light leaked through the high window, faint but steady. It looked like it was standing guard, washing the garage in a quiet yellow. Buzz. Another text, this one from the HOA. Community message scheduled Friday, 7 p.m. The words sat on the screen like a drum beat, same as the marker circle on my wall. I leaned back on the work stool, capped the marker, and let my eyes travel from the sticky note, 180 days, to the calendar circle, Friday, 7 p.m., to the yellow square of light holding in the window. It was all there, the law, the schedule, the proof. The world wanted me boxed into unstable, but my papers were in order, my time was marked, and the porch light wasn't flickering. I pocketed the phone, slid the thumb drive into its sleeve, and closed the banker's box. The evidence was ready. The countdown was real. For the first time since this started, I felt less like a man shoved aside and more like a man leaning forward. Friday morning smelled like reheated coffee and printer ink. I sat at the dining table with my laptop, the banker's box beside me. Sunlight hit the screen, too bright, but I leaned in anyway. Morrison's instructions echoed. One clean confirmation, nothing noisy. I logged into the bank portal, fingers stiff on the keys. The page churned, then loaded. One line, neat as truth, Circle K, $2. Approved. A green checkmark glowed beside it. Heart pulse. Hope flickered, then blinked behind glass. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. After days of being smeared, doubted, shoved aside, here was a bank saying, yes. The phone rang. Morrison. I put him on speaker. Looks like it went through, I said. Good, he answered. Save the screen. But listen, sometimes the system holds payout until verification. I frowned. It says, approved. Approved, yes. Paid, not yet. Hold music chimed through the line. Tinny saxophone, the sound of waiting. Morrison muted, unmuted. I'll nudge them, but don't panic. Friday's the verification checkpoint. Standard procedure. The words felt like sandpaper. Standard, procedure. The bank screen blinked once. The green check shifted. New text crawled across the bottom. Pending hold, verify Friday. The hold music cut out. Morrison came back. See? Exactly what I warned. It's a stall, not a block. Don't show it early. Friday, 7. You land it in front of everyone. I stared at the checkmark that no longer glowed. My reflection wavered in the screen, porch light faint in the glass from the hallway window, glowing against daylight. 3 days of truth, and now it hides again, I said. Trust me, Morrison said. This is paperwork drag. Nothing more. I wanted to believe him. A text buzzed. Ethan, stop pushing this. I typed back, thumb heavy. If the truth scares you, it won't scare the ledger. Sent. Family tension crackled even through letters on a screen. I clicked the save button, watched the screenshot file land in my folder. One copy only, no clutter, no mistakes. The porch light's glow ghosted in the reflection as the page settled on pending, verify Friday. I closed the laptop slow, like shutting a lid on hope that wasn't gone, just waiting. Friday morning carried that heavy Florida heat, the kind that made shirts cling before breakfast. I stepped onto my porch, coffee in hand, and froze. The HOA president stood at the edge of my drive, clipboard under his arm, Brianna at his shoulder like a well-dressed echo. Mr. Green, the president said, voice smooth but loud enough for the neighbors. Concerns have been raised about agitation. The board has logged them. Brianna folded her hands. We just want you safe, Dad. Heart pulse. They stamped me unstable before my voice was heard. I took a breath. Your safety speech reads like a muzzle. The president tapped his clipboard. The board will review this evening, 7 p.m. sharp. Please, no further disturbances until then. Family tension flared on the porch. Me. You know who paid these lights for 20 years? Brianna. This isn't about bills. It's about calm. Me. Calm for you means silence for me. The porch light flickered above us, confused in the daylight but still trying to hold. A low rumble announced a patrol car easing up the street. It stopped at the curb. One officer leaned on the wheel, watching. The other rested an elbow out the window, sunglasses hiding his eyes. No words, just presence. 2 teens on the sidewalk lifted their phones. I heard the click of a camera shutter, then a whisper, just documenting for the group. Delete that, I said. The taller one smirked. See you at 7. Phone shutters clicked again, each snap louder than it should have been. Brianna lowered her voice but pitched it for the porch crowd. Dad, nobody wants to see you distressed. We're helping. Helping? I said. You've got strangers filming me like a zoo animal. The president cleared his throat. Please, Mr. Green, civility until review. He scribbled something on his clipboard, more for the show than the page. The officer in the car didn't move, didn't wave, just watched. Blue and red lights flickered once, a quiet reminder of power parked at my curb. The porch light above me stuttered again, buzzing faintly. I turned to the street, raised my chin, and held still long enough for the teens' cameras to blink. The patrol car idled, humming steady. The officer lingered a beat longer than necessary, then shifted into gear. I kept my eyes on the porch light as it flickered, then steadied, then flickered again. By 7 o'clock, the cul-de-sac looked like a county fair. A rental arch throbbed with LED strips. The photo booth curtain breathed in and out like a lung, and a vinyl banner over it yelled, Friday, 7 p.m. in fat block letters. Phones already hovered shoulder high, their little red dots blinking like insects. Brianna took the PA mic with a game show smile. Friends, thank you for celebrating with family. She let the words hang, then turned to me as if it were a toast. Dad, we've arranged a safer space for you. Heart pulse. Walking my own driveway like a guest escorts himself out. I stepped past her. The crowd parted enough to make it feel official. My hand found the key on my ring, the same brass I'd carried for 2 decades. I slid it into the deadbolt. It went in clean. I turned. The cylinder gave a 1/4 inch, then jammed hard. I tried again. Metal on metal, a blunt little squeal. Keys fail, someone whispered, delighted. A phone chimed. I turned once more, slower, as if less force might coax the lock to remember me. Nothing. The porch light above me stuttered, then steadied, then blinked like an eyelid fighting sleep. Locks don't make a home, I said. Not loud, but the PA picked up a breath and carried the line across plastic tables. The HOA president shuffled forward with a folded sheet. Mr. Green, he said into the mic, trying for solemn, landing on smug. In light of overcrowding and safety concerns, and the need for calm while we review matters, he glanced at the banner like it was scripture. We ask that you refrain from entering tonight. Family tension snapped taut in the lights. Me. My name is on that mortgage. Brianna, sweet as Sunday. We've been the ones keeping you safe, Dad. Ethan. A step toward me, then back. Let's not escalate. Me. You escalated the minute you changed my lock. Brianna, to the crowd. We're doing what's best for him. Applause sprinkled the edges like rain on a windshield. A patrol car rolled up, light bar washing the street in blue and red. The officer in the passenger seat stepped out, palms open. Evening, folks. Welfare check. Sir, would you like a ride somewhere warm? I live here, I said. He kept his tone kind. You're not under arrest. We're just making sure everyone's okay. The word okay floated like a paper cup. Dad, Brianna said into the mic, we've packed a small bag for you. She gestured, and a suitcase appeared beside the steps like a magic trick rehearsed too many times. Please, Ethan whispered to me, not to his wife, not to the crowd. Let's move this inside, later. There is no inside for me tonight, I said. 2 teens angled their cameras for the best wash of blue across my face. The HOA tech killed the party music for effect. Someone somewhere started clapping. It spread, thin and mean, the way clapping sounds when it's not about joy. I set my palm on the door like you do at a graveside, not to move the stone, just to acknowledge it. The porch light gave one last cough of brightness and went dark, sensor fooled by the strobe of the patrol car. Brianna's voice went syrup thick. We love you, Dad. It's time I took the suitcase handle. It felt like holding a handle to my own story and finding it bolted down. I lifted anyway because there are only 2 ways to leave. Dragged or walking. Sir, the officer said, lower now, only for me. Do you want us to call anyone? I'll call them myself, I said. Sunday. He nodded, as if he knew which Sunday I meant. Friends, Brianna sang into the mic. Let's thank Officer Cooper for keeping us safe. The name wasn't his, but the crowd cheered on cue. I turned. The driveway stretched like a runway lined with phones. Kids' eyes were wide. Older neighbors looked down at shoes or up at the stars. Someone held up a sign from the photo booth. Cheers. Another held, family first. I walked. 1 step. 2. The wheels of the suitcase rattled over a crack I'd filled myself last summer. The clap-clap cadence followed, merging with the soft strobe pop of a camera, the hiss of the PA, the sugar-loud squeal of the rental arch. The family tension exchange wasn't over. It just changed shape. Ethan. Dad, please. Me. You had 22 years to say that louder. Brianna, to the phones, not to me. We'll get him settled. Pray for us. Me, without the mic. Pray for truth. At the curb, the officer hovered. You sure you don't want to lift? I've got legs, I said, and a plan. He nodded again, a small respect no one had told him to show. The blue wash softened as he stepped back. Behind me, the PA crackled, feedback whining. The HOA tech leaned into it with his best Sunday voice. Community message this weekend, he announced. See you Sunday at 10. Phones swung from me to the stage like weather vanes. The crowd's noise rose to meet the idea of Sunday. I kept walking down my own driveway under the cameras, the patrol lights pulsing like a slow heartbeat against the house I'd kept lit for 22 years. The sanctuary smelled of hymnals and fresh coffee, pews filled to the rafters. Folding chairs had been added at the sides, neighbors shoulder to shoulder. A live stream camera blinked red from the back, its little light a reminder that whatever happened here would ripple beyond the walls. I walked up the side steps with my canvas tote. No flourish, no fanfare, just a man climbing with a bag that held his truth. The pastor lifted his hand. Friends, we're gathered for healing. His voice wavered. He looked at me, then at the crowd. I set the tote on the pulpit. The wood thumped, small but solid. Morrison had coached me. No speeches, just evidence, one piece at a time. First, I said. I pulled the bank statement, crisp and sleeved. The projector filled with the snapshot. Circle K, Tuesday, 9:18 p.m. $2 charged to Walter Green. Signature scrawled at the bottom. Murmurs rose, low, uneasy. A woman in the third row nudged her husband. He nodded slow. Second, the affidavits rolled on screen. Pages of names. Ray Collins, Darnell Smith, Maria Delgado. Each notarized seal catching the projector's light. Veterans, neighbors, grocery deliveries, lawns mowed. Witnesses written in ink. Third, the ring clip. Porch light flickering faint in the corner. Timestamp Tuesday, 9:22 p.m. Brianna's hand dipping into my mailbox, pulling out the envelope. Gasps burst from the pews. A teen whispered too loud, "That's her." I felt the heat of anger rise, but what came out was softer, clearer. Heart pulse. I wanted anger. What arrived was relief, shaped like light. Family tension snapped on the stage. Brianna, sharp. He played the numbers for us. It's a family asset. Me. Family doesn't climb into mailboxes. Ethan, voice cracking. Bree, stop. Her jaw clenched. She snatched her phone, thumbs flying. Then let's show them what Dad never admits. A new clip filled the screen. My face, blurry, voice slurred. It's for the kids. Gasps shifted. A couple of heads nodded. Doubt rolled like a fog. The HOA tech frowned, fingers flying on the laptop. Checking properties. His words carried into the mic, unplanned. He froze the clip, pulled up metadata. Silence stretched. The sanctuary holding its breath. On the wall, letters big as scripture. Created, yesterday 2:14 p.m. A hiss ran through the pews. Someone shouted, "Fake!" Another, "She doctored it." Phones tilted, catching both the text and Brianna's face. Her skin drained pale. "No, that's—" She stopped, throat locked. The pastor stepped forward, eyes hard. "We owe Mr. Green an apology." I turned to Brianna. "You edited the video. You won't edit the truth." Clapback line. Razor sharp. She folded, shoulders crumpling. The phone slipped from her hand, clattering against the stage. Ethan moved past her, tears streaking. His voice cracked into the mic, though he hadn't meant it to. "Dad, we spent deposits we don't have. Please, help me fix this." Visible remorse, raw on the record. For a heartbeat, the sanctuary was silent, as if deciding. Then clapping started at the back. One pair of hands, then another. It rolled forward in waves, each row joining until the air thundered. It wasn't the brittle applause of a stage party. It was relief, recognition, repentance, all colliding. Neighbors stood. Mrs. Delgado raised her chin. Ray slapped his palm against the pew. The clerk from Circle K whispered, "That's him," to the person beside him. I stood still, letting the sound wash over me. The tote felt lighter. the papers inside no longer my burden alone. Heart pulse settled into words I didn't speak but felt. Truth doesn't shout, it endures. Above me, the sanctuary lights glowed brighter as the pastor raised his hand for quiet. For a split second, I imagined my own porch light, once flickering, stuttering, dark, now blazing steady, the way it always should have. Sunday noon spilled onto the church steps like warm water. People parted without being told, leaving a small lane that ended at me. The pastor met me halfway, eyes steadier than they'd been in years. "To the congregation and to you, Mr. Green," he said, voice in the open air, "we apologize. We misjudged, and we will say so plainly." Murmurs, nods, a few ashamed looks that landed where they needed to. The HOA president edged in, no clipboard this time. "For the record," he announced, "the board rescinds last week's warning in full." He swallowed. "We're correcting the minutes." I nodded once. "Good. Leave the record cleaner than you found it." Ethan stepped out from behind them, keys loose in his palm like coins he didn't trust himself to hold. He looked smaller without the crowd. "Dad," he said, "these are yours." He laid the ring in my hand. The old brass was warm. Brianna hovered a step back, sunglasses on, though there was cloud. "We did what we thought was best," she tried. "A house isn't a stage, it's a promise you keep," I said. Her mouth opened, then shut. Ethan didn't look at her. We walked the half-block home in a quiet that sounded like work after talk. The patrol car was gone. The rental arch was gone. The yard had that aftermath smell, trampled grass and sugar. My porch was just a porch again. At the steps, I stopped Ethan with a hand on his sleeve. "Terms." He lifted his eyes. "Okay, you and the kids can visit on my schedule. No overnights. You'll set a repayment plan with Morrison. Utilities and mortgage contributions for the years you claim my roof. You'll put it in writing. You'll both issue a correction on the neighborhood page by dusk. No more posts about me. No backhanded concern. If you break any of it, you don't come back." He nodded too fast at first, then slowed to the pace of understanding. "I'll do it." Brianna shifted her weight. "We don't have—" "You have words," I said. "Start there. Money follows words if a person means them." She looked away. "Fine," she whispered. I thumbed my phone and called the locksmith. He arrived in a gray van with a polite knock and a tool roll. Neutral, professional, the way you want a man around a lock to be. He worked while I watched from the threshold, the sun sliding across his shoulders. Pins, plug, new cylinder. Tidy hands doing honest, traceable work. I signed nothing, no paperwork needed today, but I paid him and kept the receipt tucked away for later. He tested the latch twice, the handle once, then dropped the new keys into my palm. "Try it," he said. I slid the fresh key in. The deadbolt turned like it had been waiting for me specifically. Click. Clean and final. Heart pulse. Relief has a sound. It's a lock seating clean. Ethan stood close enough to hear it. He flinched, then breathed in, like a man learning a sound he meant to remember. Inside, the living room carried the thin lemon smell of the cleaner Brianna favored. The suitcase from Friday waited by the couch, unzipped, someone's idea of mercy. I zipped it and set it by the door. "Dad," Ethan started. "You'll send the statement," I said. "Use your voice, not a lawyer's." He nodded. "I will." His voice broke anyway. "I'm sorry." "Mean it twice," I said. "Once in public, once when no one's watching." He swallowed. "Yes, sir." Brianna hovered at the threshold. I'll draft it now." "You'll post it now," I said. "Keep it plain." She took her phone out like it weighed 5 pounds and started typing. I didn't look over her shoulder. If the apology needed a chaperone, it wasn't an apology. The HOA president, who trailed us to the sidewalk and pretended not to, cleared his throat. "Mr. Green, anything else you need from the board?" "Yes," I said, not turning. "Stop calling character disputes welfare. Use that word when you mean it. A beat." "Understood," he said, sounding like a man who finally knew the difference between policy and courage. The locksmith packed his tools. You want the old cylinder? He asked. No, I said. Let it disappear. He nodded, tipped his cap, and left. I walked to the switch by the doorframe, the one I'd flipped 1,000 times without thinking, and pressed it. The porch light came alive in the day-blind glass, steady and unapologetic. Not a symbol anymore so much as a promise kept to myself. Ethan held out his hands, empty. Do we come by tomorrow to sign with Morrison? Tomorrow, I said. 9. I tapped my phone and set a quiet reminder. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. The chime sounded like a period at the end of a long sentence. Family tensions settled into something workable. Ethan, we'll be on time. Me, be honest. Brianna, I'll post it. Me, plain. They backed down the steps. No cameras, no PA. Just the scrape of shoes on concrete and the soft hiss of the new seal catching as I closed the door. I turned the new key once more, click, and let the quiet spread to the corners. The tote from church sat on the table. I didn't need it open. The house held. I glanced at the phone screen one more time, at the small block letters waiting to shepherd morning. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. I kept the house steady by patience, not fury, and learned that justice waits on proof, not noise. My son's apology came too late for riches, but early enough for repair. After 22 years of living for free, I still had my name, my porch, my light. One click, steady glow, no flicker. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment your thoughts below. Type 1 if you resonate with this story.